to establish a quorum. Council, please call the roll.
Bradford? Bradford here. Chobog? Chobog here. Comlager? Comlager here. Skinner? Weiner? We have a quorum.
Quorum has been established. Now we'll hear from our first author, and that is none other than Senator Comlager presenting ACA 3. When you're ready, you may begin. Before you start, real quick, let's get a motion on the consent calendar, please.
I'll make a motion.
It's been moved by Senator Comlager on the consent calendar. Please call the roll.
Consent calendar. Bradford?
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Chobog? Chobog, aye. Comlager? Comlager, aye. Skinner? Weiner?
We'll leave the roll open for the absent members. Now, Senator Comlager, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Today I am presenting Assembly Constitutional Amendment 3, the California Abolition Act. This amendment is long overdue. The California Constitution prohibits slavery, and voluntary servitude is also prohibited, but with one exception: to punish crime. ACA 3 seeks to amend the California Constitution to remove such conditional language, abolishing slavery and involuntary servitude without exception or loopholes. Over 94,000 Californians are currently incarcerated in state prison. African Americans account for 28% of the prison population and less than 6% of California's overall population. And although no courts explicitly include labor as a condition of criminal sentencing, there is an expectation that many incarcerated people will perform labor, oftentimes for as little as 8 cents an hour. Today, 12 states prohibit enslavement and involuntary servitude, but exception provisions for a criminal punishment remain. 9 states permit involuntary servitude as a criminal punishment, California being one of them. Dissolving the remnants of slavery and racial inequality is more important now than ever before. In 2021, U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon introduced the Abolition Amendment along with Congresswoman Nikema Williams of Georgia to remove involuntary servitude as a punishment for crime from the U.S. Constitution. Voters in Colorado, Nebraska, and Utah voted to remove exception clauses from their state constitutions. California voters should be given the opportunity to do the same. ACA 3 will not do away with community service alternate sentencing programs nor rehabilitative programming. These programs still function in states like Colorado, where similar constitutional amendments have taken effect. Our Constitution serves as the guiding principle for other state laws. There's no place for slavery, forced labor, nor involuntary servitude on our books. With me here in support is Samuel Brown of the Anti-Violence Safety and Accountability Project and Chris Logson of the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. And at the appropriate time, I would respectfully ask for your aye vote.
You will afford both your witnesses in support 2 minutes. We'll start with Chris Logston, and then we'll go to Samuel Brown.
Good afternoon, Senators. As mentioned, my name is Chris Logston. I am a living descendant of persons enslaved and emancipated in these United States. Together with organizers and advocates across the state and nation, I work with legislators and officials, including now Secretary of State Shirley Weber, as well as our esteemed Chair, Senator Bradford, to help enact the law that created California's first in the nation reparations commission. And I'm here today to urge your aye vote on ACA 3, the California Abolition Act, to finally end current ongoing slavery and involuntary servitude as punishment for a crime. Article 1, Section 6 of our state constitution, which allows for involuntary forced labor, is one of the most clear and unacceptable enduring badges and incidents of slavery in California. The fact that our state permits and supports such a heinous practice is a stain on our state and our citizens. If we do not end forced labor, if we do not change our constitution to remove involuntary servitude, shame on all of us. How can we, as a state that says we are leading the nation, that says we are the best of what America has to offer, that says as California goes, so goes the nation, how can we claim to be any better than anyone else anywhere else if we, right now, allow, support, and even profit from forced involuntary servitude, indeed from slavery? Article 1, Section 6 distinguishes between slavery and involuntary servitude, but let's not kid ourselves. What is slavery but involuntary servitude? What is involuntary servitude but slavery? A distinction without a difference. Slavery, by another name, is still slavery. I've spent the last several years of my life working on reparations. To be clear, ending slavery is not reparations. Ending slavery is ending slavery. As Malcolm X, whose birthdays we recently celebrated, said, "If you stab me, pulling out the knife out of my back does not equal healing the knife wound. But reparations, specifically in the forms of compensation, restitution, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition, will be harder, much harder, if the harm of slavery is still going on, even while we work toward reparations." Senators, I urge, for these reasons, your aye vote on ACA 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Greetings, Senators. My name is Samuel Nathaniel Brown. I am the co-founder of the Anti-Violence Safety and Accountability Project, the co-chair of the California Abolition Act Coalition, and the original author of the language which eventually became ACA 3, language that I wrote while I was still inside of a prison cell. As of today, I've been out of prison for maybe 170 days, and I served 24 years. So I have a very intimate understanding of the system of the plantation as it is. And I want to make it clear today that this is not a black and white issue. This is not an issue about wages for people who are incarcerated. This is not a Republican Democrat issue. This is not a progressive conservative issue. This is an issue of morality. This is an issue of humanity, because there's no reason why we should stand by today and allow slavery to still be on the books in any form or fashion. In 1865, when the 13th Amendment was ratified, the intention was to abolish slavery, but they didn't accomplish the goal. We here today are the change makers of our time, and we have an opportunity to stand on the right side of history and do what needs to be done today. And so what ACA 3 represents is a collective evolution of our shared humanity, and closing the doors once and for all on the vestiges of white supremacy and slavery that continue to dog the California Constitution and decimate communities of color, and also stand in the face of rehabilitation and public safety. Because as it stands right now, the last job that I had inside of prison, I was a healthcare facility maintenance worker. I was the first person in the state of California to enter inside of a cell and have to disinfect the cell when somebody tested positive for COVID-19. I am asthmatic, I've had a collapsed lung, and I have a high morbidity rate. Still, I did my job. If for one day I would have missed my job, I would have received a 115, which is like the modern day whip. And that modern day whip would have caused me to get a 15-year denial, a 10-year denial, a 7-year denial, a 5-year denial, a 3-year denial, and prevented from coming home. I would have been deemed an unreasonable risk to society, because forced labor currently takes place over rehabilitation. As of today, I walked out of prison. I have an Associate of Arts in Social Science, an Associate of Arts transfer degree in Sociology. About 3 days ago, I graduated from California State University, Los Angeles, magna cum laude, with a bachelor's in communication studies. I've taken thousands of hours of self-help programming. All of that would have been moot if I would have missed one day of work. And I would not have been made it back to these streets to speak to you all in support of this legislation right now. This we cannot allow to stand. This stands in the face of public safety, it stands in the face of rehabilitation, and overall, it's a judge of all of our character. So we have an opportunity today to be on the right side of history and do something that will affect all of the generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your testimony. It's a fine example of what second chances look like. Now we're going to go to witnesses here in the room who want to testify in support of ACA 3. You will state your name and your organization, and we'll go from there. So please, name and organization.
How you doing? Elijah Orr at Anti-Recidivism Coalition, and I strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Angelique Evans with the Sister Warrior Freedom Coalition, and we are in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Good afternoon, Senator Bradford, Senator Kamlager. My name is Jamelia Land. I am the wife of Samuel Brown. I am the co-founder of the ASAP. I am also co-chair of the California Abolition Act Coalition. Today I stand before you also as a member of the Abolish Slavery National Network, a national coalition that currently consists of over 32 states, all seeking to remove this language from our respective states' constitutions. We ask for an aye vote and thank you for your tremendous support.
Next witness.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Moore. I'm the Women's Reentry Coordinator for our Soul as Women's programming in Oakland, California. I'm formerly incarcerated. I served 23 years. I'm an LSPC Policy Fellow for the 2022 fellowship, and I'm also a member of the Bay Area Freedom Collective, and we are in support of this bill, and we ask for your support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Moyer. I am here with Legal Services for Prisoners with Children, and I strongly support this bill.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tatiana Lewis. I am with Legal Services for Prisoners with Children, and I am in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day, Mr. Bradford. How we doing? My name is Henry Ortiz. I'm formerly incarcerated. I spent half of my life in there battling with slave labor, restitution, and only $250 worth of gate money. We're addressing those three issues. This is one of them. So we ask for your support to get rid of slave labor in our institutions, and also on behalf of all our chapters with All of Us or None, not just here in California, but also across the country. We're taking the campaign to end slave labor across the country as well with all our comrades. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Hi, my name is Ivana Gonzalez. I am with Legal Services for Prisoners with Children and All of Us or None, and also the Coalition for Family Unity. And we ask for an aye vote today, and we are in strong support of this bill.
Thank you. Next witness.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Jay Vasquez. Served 25 years of incarceration, and on behalf of Communities United for Restorative Youth Justice, strong support of ACA3. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Good afternoon. Fred Williams with ACLU Cal Action in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Darlene Crumity. I am with the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, as well as American Redress Coalition for California Bay Area. I urge you today to vote yes for ACA3. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Hello, my name is Kim Mims. I'm with the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, as well as Amend the Mass Media Group. I am in strong support of abolishing slavery in California. Please vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
My name is Alex Doriz, here with Courage and All of Us or None, and I'm here in support of ACA3.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alina. I'm with Courage, and I support ACA3.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is G. I'm with Courage, and I support ACA3 bill.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Araceli Ambris. I'm with Courage, and I support ACA3.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christina Flores. I'm here with Communities United Restorative Youth Justice, also known as Courage, also with our sister organization, All of Us or None, and I'm here in support of ACA3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Litzy. I'm with Courage, and I'm in support of ACA3.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Myra Estrada. I'm with Courage as well, and I'm here to support ACA3.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joel. I'm with Courage, and I'm here to support ACA3.
Thank you.
Hello, Marvin Galdames, Legal Services Prisoners with Children. I'm here in strong support of ACA3, also a member of All of Us or None. Thank you.
Got you.
Troy Williams, Communication Manager for Legal Services for Prisoners with Children, proud member of All of Us or None, and formerly incarcerated slave in strong support of ACA.
Thank you.
John Cannon, member of All of Us or None, Legal Services for Prisoners with Children, a member of Abolish Bondage Collectively, and former slave and strong supporter ACA3.
Thank you.
Hello, hello. Jeronimo Aguilar here on behalf of Legal Services for Prisoners with Children. All of Us Are None, and the Abolish Bondage Collectively Coalition in strong support of ACA3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sonia Lewis. I am the founder and CEO of Ascribe Educational Consulting, as well as a co-sponsor for ACA3 in support of getting this legislation passed and standing in solidarity with families all over this country who are doing time with their loved ones.
Thank you.
Imani Gray, a strong supporter of ACA3, All of Us Are None.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Senators. Anthony DiMartino on behalf of Californians for Safety and Justice in strong support.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Senators. Ed Little on behalf of Time Dunn in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Avalon Edwards. I am here representing Starting Over, Inc. in Riverside All of Us Are None in strong support of ACA3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paul Briley. I represent All of Us Are None, and I am strong support of ACA3.
Thank you. Any additional witnesses in support of ACA3 here in room 112? Hearing and seeing none, moderator, let's go to the phone lines and see if there's witnesses willing to testify in support of ACA3.
Thank you. If you wish to speak in support of ACA3, please press 1, then 0 at this time. We'll start with line 22. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is Jim Lindberg on behalf of the Friends Committee on Legislation of California in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Thank you. Line 27, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. This is Rebecca Gonzalez with the National Association of Social Workers California chapter in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Line 17, please go ahead.
Leslie Caldwell Houston from the California Public Defenders Association in support.
Thank you. Line 30, please go ahead.
Chair and members of the committee, Espan Nunez with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition and Social Change in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Line 23, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Sarah Rigney on behalf of Initiate Justice in strong support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Line 31, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Iris Peoples, and I'm calling in support of the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, urging you to vote yes on ACA3. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Line 24, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. It's Josiah Williams with the American Redress Coalition of California Bay Area and Coalition for Just and Equitable California CJEC. Strong support of ACA3. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Line 21, please go ahead. Line 21. Line 20, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Quarles, and I'm calling on behalf of the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, and I'm urging your aye vote on ACA3 today. Thank you.
Thank you. Line 25, please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Theo Thomas. I'm calling in support of the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, as well as ETM Media, and I'm urging you to vote aye on ACA3. Thank you.
Thank you. Line 28, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Marcus Champion with the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, as well as the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants Los Angeles, in overwhelming support of ACA3 and ending slavery in California. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further comments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Now we're going to move back to room 112. Is there anyone here wishing to testify in opposition of ACA3? Hearing and seeing none, we'll now move to the phone lines, moderator. Is there anyone wishing to testify in opposition of ACA3?
Thank you. If you wish to speak in opposition to ACA3, please press 1, then 0 at this time. Line 16, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm just a little confused by this process. You don't seem to have any witnesses in opposition to this proposed constitutional amendment. I'm assuming that's a mistake. Certainly, you would be giving equal representation to the opposing views.
Each side has the same opportunity as in support or opposition. So obviously there's no one here wishing to speak in opposition. So thank you. Next witness.
Thank you. Line 32, please go ahead.
Hello, this is Alma Robinson from California Lawyers for the Arts. I was in the queue to speak in support of ACA3, and for some reason, I was not called on. I want to speak in support for California Lawyers for the Arts, as well as Grace Cathedral and the Diocese of Northern California. Thank you very much. In support, please.
Thank you. Got it. Any moderator, is there any witnesses in opposition?
Thank you. I have no further comments in queue.
Great. We'll bring it back to the committee. Is there any questions or concerns as it relates to ACA 3?
I have some questions.
Senator Chobog.
Hi. Hello, Senator. Kamlager, thank you for bringing this measure forward. I am going to ask some questions for more for, I guess, for clarification, because I'm in absolute agreement with you. We should not have any slavery. And I'm trying to find the difference between involuntary servitude and work in our prisons, because it's my understanding that actually working is a privilege in the prison system. And for some, it may be required as part of the of their sentencing. But so here's where I'm coming from. We've talked about and have supported, I have supported some of the bills that you've moved forward as far as increasing the amount of what inmates receive as they exit the prison, because I agree with you on that measure. And I also agree in increasing the wages that they make to help them pay their restitution and pay for their needs in there, as well as, you know, hopefully having a little bit of money as they exit the prison system. So I'm such an advocate for work in general for everyone and anyone, because I think it's a way and a means to build character and have dignity as a whole. And the last thing I would ever want is for anybody to sit in prison without the ability to either pursue an education, build a skill set of some sort that will allow them to have it work after they leave, or be able to make some money to help provide for their families and their personal needs and as they exit the system. So I'm just trying to kind of figure out the notion of the difference between having the ability to work and then involuntary servitude, and how that plays into future factors as to what they're going to make, taking whether or not they take in consideration the fact that they're being housed, being fed, they have access to health care, education, and so forth. Would that be considered in what, you know, future wages would be paid on there? So I'm just trying to see how all of this works together.
Yeah, so I deeply appreciate the question, because it gives me an opportunity to explain and to clarify. There are so many interlocking issues that deserve to have daylight as it relates to how folks who are incarcerated survive on the inside. This is a constitutional amendment that would take out the exception of slavery or involuntary servitude in the Constitution. That has no bearing on the kinds of jobs that are offered, on the kinds of educational programs that are offered. It has no bearing on the amount of wages that would correspond with particular jobs. It actually would play no real role in how hours or privileges would be calculated or even deducted. This is as Mr. Brown put it, an amendment rooted in moral justice, and healing around having words that say, if you have committed a crime, you will be treated like a slave, or you will have to serve involuntarily. So, restitution can often be part of sentencing, but when you are sentenced, you are not sentenced to do X kind of job. You are not sentenced to work 15 hours or 20 hours or 150 hours as a janitor or as a clerk or in the library. You are sentenced to time. Once you enter into the facility, all of those things get calculated without your consent, without your input, without your approval. Now there might be philosophical debates about should someone who is incarcerated have the freedom to decide how they survive inside. And I think that is something that we should wrestle with. This says that you should have options, that you should not be mandated or required to do something without your consent, because I can tell you, you must. This certainly allows for deeper conversations that will hopefully find their way through this committee to have us more thoughtfully demand innovation coming out of CDCR about what kind of programming they offer, how they offer it, what jobs should look like, and how do you allow folks some dignity while inside. And that's essentially what this amendment does. The other part of this is, once it leaves the legislature, it still has to go before the voters. So this is really an opportunity for the state of California to push CDCR to reimagine its facilities and how it manages them. But you cannot be incarcerated and say, I don't want to do this job. You can't. If someone says, this is what you have to do, and you may have 15 million legitimate reasons why you can't. One of them may be you don't want to. You are not allowed to have that kind of freedom to negotiate a different kind of job, to negotiate wages, to allow CDCR to take into consideration your health or your well-being or your limitations. And so these words that are in the Constitution right now are incredibly profound and incredibly dehumanizing. And if we are going to work towards restorative justice and pushing a legislature and a state to really reimagine how you rehabilitate, how people reform, repent, think about, whatever the verb is you want to use, about what got them there in the first place. I believe that all of those things can happen without forcing folks into slavery. And that's simply all this amendment does. So I hope that answered your question. But the reality is, when you are sentenced and you do go into the facility, you don't have a say in how you use your time.
So basically what you're saying is that right now, when you're sentenced, you don't have an option to say, okay, I want to work, I want to go to school, I want to learn a trade. You don't have those options?
So they have programming that is available. So learning a trade and going to an educational program is very different from working. But no, you are assigned a job. And so you can say, I'm not going to do that, but you will suffer consequences. And many consequences that you can suffer might be, for example, time in the SHU. You can be docked. They can be added time to your sentence. You can have privileges revoked. And I think there's also a difference between,
and I'm going to take it out of the carceral experience and shift it back to someone who's not incarcerated, who's working. Obviously, there are consequences if you show up late, or if you're not doing your job. That is different. But you also have the flexibility when you're not incarcerated to do those kinds of things and to use the law to shield you from some retaliation from an employer who might be upset with you about, your actions as an employee. Those are things that you are not granted when you are, serving involuntarily. And so this, once again, is just to take those things out of the Constitution. It does not mean that folks will not have to work, but it will force CDCR to reimagine how those things are set up, how they're framed. And that's simply what this does.
Okay, so if we take this word out, it opens the opportunities for inmates to be able to negotiate the type of work that they want, how much they want to earn.
Well, so,
yes or no?
So actually, I think the senator, I could be wrong. Senator Bradford has a bill that deals with wages while you are incarcerated. That doesn't do any of that. Those things all have to happen through the legislature.
Okay, so there is still some say as to what we permit?
The governance of CDCR happens through the legislature and the administration.
Okay.
Those things are not touched by this amendment.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we have some safeguards and that we are not opening to...
How CDCR is run is monitored and negotiated and even directed by the legislature and the administration.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Senator Skinner.
Thank you, Chair. And the way I look at this, besides I think that it's absolutely morally the correct thing to do, and it was a travesty that in eliminating slavery with the 13th Amendment, that it, and we're talking the U.S. Constitution now, that it was allowed to have the statement in that amendment that involuntary servitude could be a form of criminal punishment, that could be allowed, because we know the history of what that resulted in. And it resulted in effect, imprisoning former slaves, Black people, purely to have labor for the South, which otherwise was losing a labor force. And we, unfortunately, besides the horrible moral and degrading aspects of it, it continues to have repercussions in, and of course, being in our Constitution, but also in the structures of our, carceral system. Now, but this does not change either California laws regarding rehabilitation or rules in the prisons. It does not change the regs of CDCR. It would, however, by changing the Constitution, perhaps give courts some room, because courts have, and it's in the analysis, cited the presence of that clause in the amendment in both our Constitution and the U.S. Constitution as a justification for, in effect, requiring prison work without pay. Now, obviously, question here is more than just pay. It's the whole issue of just a servitude, involuntary servitude. Now, But what I think is really important, if we put this before the ballot, which I obviously support and am a co-author, is that it doesn't automatically change anything about how our CDCR is structured. That, again, would be whether the legislature does, whether CDCR itself changes rules. But I think as a principle, it's essential. And it may lay the ground for, as our colleague and presenter has laid out, it may lay the ground for some changes. And those would be more appropriate changes, because what we know from lots of research is that most things forced, people don't benefit well from. So if we take, like, we had a bill in the past around requiring substance use treatment or various things, you know, for a person that was an addict. And we had lots of testimony that showed that in most cases, a person that is addicted who is forced to do substance abuse treatment and isn't ready themselves, hasn't decided for themselves, it tends not to be very successful. And similarly, it's hard to imagine rehabilitation that is forced or labor that is forced producing the kind of benefit either from skills or from attitude or anything that really is what we want. So I would hope that if the voters, number one, if we put this on the ballot, which I hope we do, that the voters, in their change, if they approve it, that it would lead to some changes within our prison structure that would respect the work that is being done and treat it differently. But that's not a guarantee in terms of just removing. But it is what I feel is what is essential, is to remove this moral stain from our Constitution. And then I think obviously many people will work to try to change those conditions, but whether they are or not, that still remains to be seen. And presenter, I hope that I have characterized this in a way that is consistent with your thinking. But it's, in my opinion, a very important thing to do.
Thank you, Senator Skinner. You have another question?
One last comment. So I think for most people, I think it would be important for them to understand that this is not eliminating the option of work. And I think that's probably an angle that we might want to make sure we're clear, that this does not mean that we're eliminating the ability for people to choose to work as an option while people are incarcerated, because I think there might be some misinterpretation as to involuntary servitude means that you're making or forcing people to work, and that is not always necessarily the case. Some incarcerated people may choose to want to work, especially if it has a means to provide for themselves and their families. I just want to make sure that we are very clear on that moving forward, so that Californians know that this does not eliminate the opportunity for work for people, and that work is still should be highly encouraged for everyone, because idle hands are, idle minds are just a terrible thing.
Senator Skinner.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies. There was another thought that I didn't express, but I appreciate what you were saying, Senator Choa-Bogue. But I think we heard testimony that we already have a situation where, depending on the circumstances, that missing work that was assigned to you in the prison can result in you being written up in such a way that it's in your file and considered a violation, which is then considered by the parole board, which you could otherwise be eligible for parole, ready under the sentencing to be released, and then not be able to be. And so now, obviously, there's many, unfortunately, it's a human enterprise, and there's many arbitrary things about that system that can result in incarcerated individuals having things written up in their files that then hurt their chances at parole. which I think many of us would like to see that kind of arbitrariness, that subjectiveness removed. That's a harder thing to do. But certainly, there can be circumstances where the incarcerated individual, there's real legitimate reasons for them not to work in the particular thing that they're assigned to at all or on a given day, and yet they can be written up. So that alone is, I think, a very not a good feature of our prison system, but this constitutional amendment alone will not per se eliminate that. They will take other things to eliminate that.
I thank you, and I thank the comments and questions by my colleagues, and I just think this is a very straightforward measure, especially for a state that claimed they never participated in slavery, and all this does is remove the language that states one has to serve or work involuntarily and forced labor, and it would seem to be a common sense measure again for a state that says we didn't actively participate in slavery, but you have in our Constitution right now seeing one can, simply because of being incarcerated, be forced into labor. This bill does not remove the option of someone deciding whether they work or not. It removes the forced labor that's forced upon someone, which is clearly slavery when someone is forced to work. So all this does is remove that language that should have never been there. We claim to have eliminated slavery in 1865, but here we are 100 and almost 60 years later, and we still have language in our Constitution that clearly speaks to slavery. So I think it's a common sense measure, and I appreciate the author for her work and the coalition in support of this measure. Would you like to close?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank my colleagues for the questions and for the debate. I first want to express gratitude to Samuel Brown and Jamelia Land for working with me on this. As Mr. Brown mentioned, he did most of this work while he was incarcerated and talked, in fact, about the importance of being able to participate in programs while incarcerated. I could not have shared any more eloquently than Mr. Brown or Mr. Logson about why this is important. And I also want to express gratitude to all of the brothers and the sisters who found their way today here to share their voices in support of the measure. What this does is very simple. There's no nuance. It is so clear. It would simply say that slavery and involuntary servitude are prohibited. That is what the state constitution would say if this is passed by the legislature and if it is passed by the voters. Slavery and involuntary servitude are prohibited. That is what the change would look like. It is silent on all of these other philosophical debates that we should and will continue to have about how CDCR operates. And hopefully we are able to have discussions about what work really means for folks who are incarcerated. You know, abuses that happen, retaliation that happens, not having enough work that happens, being put in really dangerous situations or predicaments where it's not sometimes so much about doing the work, but how you are surviving. I think there are some romantic and fantastical ideas about what it is like on the inside, and then I think there's the reality. And for folks who've never been on the inside, we will never have a true understanding of what that reality is. And those are debates that we should have, but for another time. Because this bill simply would say in the Constitution that slavery and involuntary servitude are prohibited. It is silent on all of those other things. And those are where we can come in and lend expertise and stories and experiences and questions and really pry and prod into what happens in our prison system to find ways that make it work. But in the meantime and in between time, as my mother would say, this would simply eliminate the exception that involuntary servitude and slavery are okay for the punishment of a crime. And with that, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this measure? It's been moved by Senator Skinner. We have a due pass as adopted to the Committee on Elections. Council, please call the roll.
ACA 3, Bradford.
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Trowbogue.
Aye.
Trowbogue, aye. Comlager.
Aye.
Comlager, aye. Skinner. Skinner, aye. Weiner.
The measure has 4 votes. We'll leave the roll open for our absent member. Congratulations, Senator Comlager. All right, now we're waiting for authors, right?